Into the Spider-Verse was a real landmark in animation film when it came out in 2018, garnering praise from all over for its unique animation style, as well as its heartfelt and hilarious story and characters. To say that the anticipation was high heading into this film is really an understatement. It even landed on my most anticipated films of the year list. So I'm very happy to announce that this is just as good as the first, if not better. Going into the movie, I think everyone was expecting the same great animation that we saw in the first. But what really surprised me was how much further they took it this time around. Not just pulling from comics of the modern and classic eras, but also from some abstract art and even some impressionists, all while serving the story and emotional narrative that this medium is using. Just like the first, this story is solid and does a great job balancing our two main characters, Miles and Gwen. And yes, Gwen is a main character for sure this time around, and I think Haley Stanfield gives an excellent voice performance. Speaking of great voice performances, Oscar Isaac brings a real strong performance of the Spider-Man 2099 character. Shamik Moore as well brings another good performance that brings real life and complexity to our favorite hero, as well as the always lovely Jason Schwartzman. Other new additions are amazing, and I'm not going to spoil any of those characters for anyone who hasn't seen, but the way that the animators use each character and give them their own art style is just incredible. And I think this brings us to what I love so much about this film compared to much of the other multiverse movies, and that's its commentary on what is considered so sacred in comic fandoms, this idea of canon, and the film's ability to both make fun of just how stupid it all is, and yet how fun it can be with this much artistic freedom. I found that the film's ability to weave the Spider-Man lore was just beyond more impactful than whatever No Way Home is doing. There's even a callback to a 90s Spider-Man comic line that I thought was so funny, and I think it really backs up my point. And for criticisms, I have very few, honestly. For one, it's really hard seeing this as something that stands alone, as it is really part 2 of a 3-part story. And I don't think it necessarily takes its legs out from under it in the way that some other films like recently have with part 1s or part 2s, because I think there's clear character arcs, but also I could see where someone walking in would be like, this is a little confusing. And secondly, I want to discuss an issue that I think has been popping up for a lot of people, and that is the sound and mixing of this film. I recently went to go see this at a standard showing at an AMC, which that may be my own fault for going to an AMC standard showing, but I could not hear the dialogue for the first 10 minutes. Me and my wife both got up and mentioned it, hey, please turn it up. And I thought, okay, maybe that's just the projectionist didn't turn it to 7 or something like that. But I went back out and I was on Twitter scrolling, and people were like, what's going on with the sound in Spider-Verse? And I was like, oh, okay, so it's not just me. So just be wary of that. If you are planning on going to see this film, maybe think about paying the extra couple bucks to go see it in an IMAX or the Dolby cinemas at the AMCs, or just make sure that your projectionist is using the correct sound levels, because I would hate for the sound to be what pulls you out of this film, because it really is just visually incredible. And I do think that the score and the vocal performances are really great, so I'd hate to see that become an issue. But honestly, outside of those 2 very small things, I think this film is great. I think this is easily a 4 to 4.5 star film, and I definitely recommend going out and seeing it this weekend. Support these animators and the great art that they've made, even if it is kind of in this IP bubble of Spider-Man. They actually take risk with the character, and it leads to really satisfying results. And these are just 3 films that I would recommend if you liked Across the Spider-Verse. Number 1, I think, is really kind of like an easy pairing because of the multiverse idea, but this past year, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Best Picture winner, I think is a perfect example of a film that matches up with this and the ideas of being a child and a parent. I mean, it's really great. It got a lot of praise, but if you haven't seen it, I think that it's a great pairing with this film. And for my second one, I'm gonna go with a Wachowski film, and not the one you're thinking about. This is one of my favorites from the Wachowski sisters, and I think it's constantly kind of cut down, and particularly at the time, it was not well liked. But I love Speed Racer. It's such a fun and inventive film visually, and it's just spectacle. If you haven't given Speed Racer a watch in a while, give that one another go. And I know there's some Matrix comparisons that you can make with this film. That film inspires everything at this point, science fiction wise, but definitely check out Speed Racer. In 3, I'm gonna go with another animated film, just because I have an excuse to put a Miyazaki film here, but it's one of my favorites, and that's Howl's Moving Castle. It definitely shows how far animation can go, and all of that's drawn. I think there's a little bit of 3D animation in Howl's Moving Castle, but most of it is drawn, and it's just beautiful, and you should definitely check it out. So thanks everyone for watching, and if you want to join this film loving community, just give a like and subscribe. I recently talked about the new Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 film, which I also thought was really good. I also have an in-depth review of one of my favorite Pixar films, WALL-E. So I hope you all have a great day, and check those things out.